Thank you, Lee, for that great introduction. And thank you, Michelle, and the rest of the WFN board for inviting me to address your annual conference. I am so excited to be here. Welcome to the Motor City. Woo! You know, I have to say that I've been to Detroit before, but when I came in this morning, I was reminded there's no way to forget that you're in Detroit because they're selling cars in the lobby. I am really excited to be here. To start with, it's not often that I get to talk with so many strong, powerful, influential women. And might I add, I hope without the risk of criticism, that you are some of the best-looking philanthropists in the country. Being here today was really important to me. Some of you may have heard that I suffered a personal loss this weekend, and I was reminded in the midst of what was a family tragedy that every day is so precious, every single day. It feels great to be here, and my father used to say, getting older is so much better than the alternative. So I am grateful to be here, grateful to have the privilege of spending time with all of you this morning. This speech may also be one of the most important speeches that I've given since stepping into the role of President and CEO at Calvert Foundation nearly 2 years ago. It is important because of this audience and your power and your influence, and because of the message that I came to deliver, which I believe is so important. In this current environment, where women are being criticized for daring to lean into careers, for embracing their power and influence as leaders, my message today is about stepping into our power. My speech this morning is about women making a difference in each other's lives. It is a speech about how we can all make a difference. We make a difference as daughters, as grandmothers, as aunts, as wives, as sisters. We also make a difference as mentors, as role models, teachers, friends. And by the end of my speech, I hope you will walk away understanding your power to make a difference as an agent of social change with your money, as a consumer, as a philanthropist, and yes, as a social impact investor. We have the power. I like to say there's power in the purse. But before I describe how you can personally make a difference with the power of your purse, I'd like to begin by telling a story about a man, which I admit is a strange way to start off a speech about women making a difference. But I want to share with you the story of my family. I'm very proud to be the great-granddaughter of a sharecropper. My father was born in rural North Carolina in the 1920s, during a time and in a place where blacks could not come to a hotel room and sit in a ballroom like the one we're in today. My father, Samson Green, was a human rights activist who organized his fellow students from Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, to sit in at legally segregated lunch counters and to march for civil rights in the 1950s and 1960s. He believed the future could be different for his daughters than the one in which he had come of age. He was a witness to incredible change over time. He and my mother succeeded in creating a different future for me and my sister. We both received graduate degrees from Harvard. My sister from the law school, and I from the business school. My parents believed in what was possible through hard work and determination. If my father were alive today, he would be nearly 90 years old. And the racial diversity in this room would blow him away. He would be awestruck by the progress we have made in just my lifetime thus far. He would be amazed by the accomplishments and influence of the women gathered here today and the difference you are all making, that you are creating through your work. And he would be encouraged and gratified that his life's work of fighting for social justice and economic justice had not been in vain. So you may be wondering, why in the world would I start my speech with a story about a man? And I started with the story of my family because it's really a story about a woman. And that woman is my grandmother, Sally Green. How was it possible that my father imagined such a different future, a world without legal segregation, a world where his daughters could get the best education in the country, arguably one of the best educations in the world? It was because Sally Green overcame unbelievable odds, incredible barriers to enable my father to have a different life than her own. And although I am grateful to my father, I'm even more grateful to my grandmother. She was widowed in Weldon, North Carolina at the age of 26, just before the start of the Great Depression, with six children, the youngest of which was my father, who was a baby at the time. Imagine what it would have been like to be in her shoes for just one day, at a time when there were no social safety nets, no social security, no public welfare. Family lore has it that she was actually swindled out of insurance money after my grandfather died of injuries caused in a railroad accident. But whatever the truth may be, we know she made her way north, eventually making it to Baltimore, Maryland, where her 6 children had educational and economic opportunities that weren't available to them in rural North Carolina, and where they learned what was possible based on her struggles and her triumphs. My father was the first to attend college in his family, eventually went to graduate school and became a social worker. One of his sisters ultimately became a registered nurse, and his brother the owner of a corner grocery store. So the real hero in my family story is my grandmother, one of the first women to make a difference in my life. And I believe that we can all make a difference in each other's lives. Every day, the Women's Funding Network is making a difference in women's lives through the collaborations you have built. You have successfully connected more than 160 organizations that provide resources to women in need. The global safety net you are building is helping to solve a problem of social injustice and poverty, and helping women achieve financial power and influence over their lives. I think, how much easier would it have been for Sally Green if WFN had existed decades ago? My family's story of empowerment taught me the importance of education and the importance of social and economic justice. I am a very proud graduate of a all girls K through 12 school, where I learned that women could serve in leadership roles. And in fact, we were pretty good in those leadership roles. That education and what came after eventually led me to my current leadership role at Calvert Foundation. We talk a lot at Calvert Foundation about what we do as pioneers in impact investing. But I want to take some time today to talk about what we believe, what I believe. I believe we have power when we align money with our values. This alignment is where we find real power in the purse. There are a lot of ways to describe impact investing, but one way to think about impact investing is simply as a tool that helps investors make financial commitments based on their own personal beliefs. Look around the room. Look in your own heart. The first line of empowerment through impact investing is you. Throughout my life, I have been inspired by women who so clearly embody the positive social impact that we all seek to achieve in the world. Let me start by sharing the story of someone that many of you may know personally. Phyllis Caldwell, who was previously the head of Washington Area Women's Foundation, and before that, a corporate executive running community development for Bank of America nationally, has made a difference in my life. She is someone who puts her heart and soul into her work and operates from a place of service. She has been, and she continues to be, a role model for leadership and how to be genuine in your social commitment and passionate at the same time as you adhere to extremely high levels of professionalism. Her work at Bank of America is a great example of how business and corporations can do well and also do good in the community, which is exactly what we are trying to accomplish through impact investing. We are not just generating financial returns, we are also generating social returns. I am asked by foundation professionals and philanthropists all the time, if an activity or a program generates cash flow, if it generates revenue, then what role does philanthropy have in that? Can't the capital markets and mainstream traditional sources of money address the challenges if in fact there's cash flow and revenue? The answer is simple. Philanthropy seeds the ground. It seeds the ground for private investment to come later. Philanthropic support makes real possibilities for mainstream capital markets. It is our role as foundations and individual donors to see the possible and make it visible for all. It is our job to see the hope and to fund it, early and often. Phyllis is an inspiration to me, not only because of her work at Washington Area Women's Foundation and at Bank of America, but also because she's been willing to commit her personal time and talent and resources to social justice. She served on the board of directors at Calvert Foundation and is also one of our investors. Phyllis models for all of us how to put our talent and time, and yes, our money, where our heart is. How many of you, and I suspect not many, would be surprised to know that women control $20 trillion in money globally? I know none of you would be surprised to learn that women care about how their money is invested and that it be invested in alignment with their values. There are actual studies that show women want their investments to reflect their values. They tend to be involved investors who are future-oriented with their choices, much more so than men. There is also a new generation of philanthropists coming onto the landscape who will inherit more than $41 trillion during the first half of the 21st century. The next generation of investors, their worldview is being influenced by 24-hour news coverage, Facebook, YouTube, and yes, Twitter. They are eyewitnesses to economic and human rights injustices. And we can help them to see the world through a gender lens and invest accordingly. I believe we are responsible for finding ways to tell new impact investors about the power of investing in women. In the US, I'm just going to share a couple of statistics because I think they are important to remind ourselves. In the US, women own 40% of the businesses, and their businesses are growing at twice the rate of businesses owned by men. Twice the rate. But yet women start with just 64% of the capital available to men for those businesses. On the global stage, when women get money, they know what to do with it. Women who get money to invest in land, when they own the same amount of land as a man, they actually generate 10% more in terms of crop yield. We are all enhanced when women have money. There is power in the purse. The folks at the World Bank have famously said that investing in women is smart economics. How many people have heard that? Investing in women is smart economics. We've all heard that. And it's true. It is unbelievable. Unlike men, women reinvest 90% of their income back into their families and communities. In emerging and developing countries, when 10%, just 10%, that's all the delta needs to be, 10% more girls go to school and get an education, the GDP in that country rises by at least 3%. The entire GDP goes up by 3% just because we're investing in women and educating girls. Imagine the kind of global economic stability we could create if instead of 10%, it was 100% of girls going to school. Improving the lives of women is a fundamental weapon in combating world poverty, raising healthy, educated children, building our communities, and creating new outlets for the political inclusion of women. Impact investing in women for economic, political, and cultural gain is a road to a more just and sustainable economic environment for us all. I'd like to take a moment to talk about another woman who has made a difference in my life. Tommy Duncan is an attorney in Washington, D.C. I've known her since we were 12. She attended that same all-girl high school that I mentioned earlier, where we were taught that there are no limits for women. Tommy started off her postgraduate career at a well-known Washington law firm, and then left to become a public servant. In her current work through the court systems and in life, Tommy sees the benefits of what we seek to accomplish in all of our work. She was one of the founding board members of the Washington Area Women's Foundation, and she believes in the notion that women pooling funds and seeing themselves as philanthropists has a powerful effect that you see at all levels of life. Her commitment was instrumental to the establishment of the Washington Area Women's Foundation, and it is because of women like Tommy that the work of WFN and its impact continues to grow. Another powerful woman that I've been graced to know on my journey is Donna Calajan, whom I'm guessing many, many people in the room know. She currently serves on the board of WFN. And Donna made a difference in my life. Years ago, she was one of the youngest women to be named a senior vice president at Fannie Mae when I was an up-and-coming, mid-level, okay, maybe I was a low-level employee. But Donna is now at Global Giving. And she believes that investment in women has obvious benefits for everyone. And she says it's not enough to just know the statistics. Donna urges us all to awaken our communities to the benefits of lifting the lives of women and girls. Currently, US investors own $37 trillion of investment capital. That's a lot of money any way you cut it. And you and your members, you're some of those investors. There is power in your purse. If just 1% of that $37 trillion were to be invested for impact, $370 billion could be targeted to transform the world and create more economic growth for us all. The challenge before us is to create products and tools that target money to support and empower women, and girls. At Calvert Foundation, we are creating just such products that will lead to a systemic change for women as investors and beneficiaries. A year ago, almost a year ago to the date, on International Women's Day, we launched an initiative known as Women Investing in Women, or Win-Win. We're very proud of that catchy title. The goal of Win-Win is to raise investment dollars from women to support the economic empowerment and financial stability of women around the world. Win-Win invests in organizations that empower women by providing small business loans, financing daycare facilities, education, and more. Our goal is to democratize impact investments and make it easier for individual investors to participate in financing community development. Calvert Foundation raises capital through the sale of our community investment note, and then invests that capital in organizations around the world that create positive social, economic, and environmental impact. The community investment note starts at $20, and it's available in various terms and rates. And it is one of the only impact investing products that can be purchased through a brokerage account by retail investors. Over the last 17 years, we have provided more than $400 million in loans to help low-income communities around the world, while maintaining 100%, and yes, I did say 100% repayment rate to all of our investors. Wow. But what's most important is that we use proceeds from selling those notes to invest in women's health centers, women's housing here in the United States, and social enterprises like clean cook stove projects abroad. We're really proud of our success at Calvert Foundation, but we realize our success is just a drop in the bucket. Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living." It is our charge to make sure women around the world have the ability to live the lives they are capable of living. We have to commit to our own passion and believe that women and women investors do not have to play small. I was privileged last week to attend a gathering of 800 women graduates of Harvard Business School, celebrating 50 years of women on the HBS campus. Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook and now author, delivered the closing keynote, and not surprisingly, she encouraged us all to lean in. I believe for our work in philanthropy, it is even more important than in the corporate sector that we truly lean in. We have a special responsibility to lean in. We are managing and influencing precious resources for social benefit and social good. The millions of women who have been underserved and under-resourced are depending on us all to lean in. We must accept the challenge from Donna Calajon to craft more investment vehicles with a gender lens. We must awaken philanthropists and philanthropic organizations to see the power of investing in women for the betterment of the world's economic strength and their own personal wealth building. Like Phyllis Caldwell, we must make our own personal commitment to our work and invest our own resources to create positive social impact for women. We must follow the lead of women like Tommy Duncan and invest in our communities so that we can see the effects of our work at every level. Lee Roper knows the power of impact investment, and I am so delighted that the Women's Foundation of Minnesota is an impact investor. As you heard earlier, they have invested in our Win-Win initiative, the first women's foundation to do so. Thank you. I dare say that each of you here today has the same compassion, the same commitment that Phyllis, Donna, Tommy, and Lee share. As we lean in together and toward each other, we build a web of support for our sisters around the world. We are all making a difference in the lives of others, creating a new world order that embraces women and the power of our innovation, our strength, and our tenacity. We must strive to make a difference in all of our decisions, in little as well as big ways. C.S. Lewis is the author of the Narnia books and one of my favorite writers. Once said, "Little decisions increase at a compound interest. That's why little decisions we make every day are of infinite importance." So think about how you can make a difference with your money, whether it is a little impact investment that you choose to make personally, or a big impact investment, like the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Or if it's using your leadership and influence to convince other women to become impact investors. However you make a difference, just make it, and never forget the power in your purse. Thank you. So, thank you. So I'm going to take some Q&A and welcome any questions on just about any subject. Yes.
Hi, Lisa. Should I wait for a mic? Okay. Down here, you guys, front. Hi, Lisa. I'm Mary Beth with the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Hi. Thank you so much for your remarks. I'm just wondering, are you going to replicate programs for women in other places around the country?
Yeah. So the Win-Win Initiative is a national program available to any U.S. investors. So you can invest in it anywhere as long as you are based in the U.S. The proceeds are being invested globally around the world. And right now we're in Kenya. I think we also have an investment in a medical center that is internationally based, and so we're all over the world. But we also, in addition to investing globally, are very committed to investing in the U.S. And so one of the things that we're doing with the model of Win-Win is replicating it to focus on investing in American cities and making our note available in a very targeted way. We hope to pilot in the in the coming months, and we're actually looking at starting with Detroit right here, as well as Minneapolis. It's hard to see with the lights where there are hands up. Maybe there aren't any. Maybe that's why.
Here's one.
Oh, right there.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Alandra Washington.
Hi, Alandra.
Foundation. Thank you for being here, and sorry to hear about your loss.
Oh, thank you.
You talked about a global economic framework for women that really, to me, included the diaspora of giving that happens across the world. Could you talk more about how that power can be harnessed and how that messaging can get out to actually create a lens for investing around women issues?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And, one of the reasons that I feel so passionately about this work is, one is that we're getting capital to people and places that need it, all right, to people and places that have not traditionally had access to the capital markets, to mainstream investment. But two, the other reason that I feel so strongly about this work is because we're creating connections for people with causes that they care about and places that they care about. And with diaspora communities, that connection, I think, runs very deep. And you can see it through all of the remittance flows that happen coming from the US and other developed countries that go into emerging markets. The remittances are in the hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. It's really unbelievable. And what we're looking at right now is an opportunity to drive some of that capital for investment. Because when you invest, it recycles, right? It's not just a one-time pass-through. it recycles, it's available over a period of time, but then comes back to the investor. So most investors are really able to invest or lend much more than they could grant or give away or send through remittance. And we think in the diaspora community, this connection between people's countries of origin is really quite strong. And one of the things that we're doing with Win-Win is trying to apply gender lens screen across our entire portfolio. So looking at gender lens, not just for the Win-Win initiative, but the work that we're doing in revitalizing American cities and our exploration around a diaspora initiative. Yes?
Okay, I want anyone to translate for me my question.
Je comprends
Okay.
un peu.
Un peu.
Un peu.
Ok. Merci. Mon nom c'est Julienne Lusenge. Je viens de la République démocratique du Congo en Afrique, très loin.
Votre nom encore? Her name is Julienne Vesenge, and she comes from the Congo.
Ouais. Je voudrais savoir comment vous pensez avancer avec nous, les femmes francophones, parce que d'abord femmes francophones, mais qui restent dans les milieux en conflit. Nous avons des problèmes, mais nous n'arrivons pas vraiment à accéder à toutes les informations, parce que tous les documents sont écrits en anglais, et ça devient compliqué pour nous à accéder au financement. Comment vous pensez, parce que sinon on va marcher un monde, une aile des femmes qui restent là-bas et d'autres qui avancent.
I think you understand. It's an issue of access. How are the women of the Congo going to be able to participate in this kind of initiative if your materials are mostly in English?
Yes.
Un instant. Nous avons initié un fonds parce que pour essayer de répondre aux difficultés d'accès au financement, nous avons initié, nous en tant que femmes de la société civile, initié un fonds pour les femmes congolaises. Et nous avons vraiment besoin de soutien et c'est pour ça que j'ai fait ce long voyage pour venir vous rencontrer, pour voir comment connecter avec vous, même si je ne parle pas bien l'anglais, je peux comprendre un peu. Je voudrais vraiment avoir des connexions et voir comment nous allons travailler ensemble pour aider les femmes. Vous avez, dans notre pays, il y a un grand problème de violence faite aux femmes, violence sexuelle.
All right. And so I think the question was that so many women with children can't go a long distance to be able to connect with organizations like ours, and the obstacles also of having to communicate in English, and what can we do to overcome that. And so one of the things that we do in Calvert Foundation is we realize that we are not going to be the best on-the-ground providers of this capital, so we work with intermediaries. And we partner with institutions that are in country that can provide investments in local currency that speak whatever the local language is. And so we've partnered with microfinance institutions. And although we don't have any partners in the Congo, we do work with BRAC Africa that is doing some investing in Southern Sudan, Uganda. I'm looking at my colleague who's here. I used to know all this stuff when I ran the loan program, but and Tanzania, thank you. And so if you have ideas about other partners that we might be able to work with in the Congo that would be native speakers and would be able to do the on-the-ground lending, we actually prefer to have partners because we're based in Bethesda, Maryland, and so it's very hard, I agree with you, very hard for us to be able to provide any type of direct financing services from that far away in another language. Yeah.
Good morning, Lisa. I'm here. I'm straight in front of you.
Oh, there you are in the back. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Layli Mapayan. I'm the executive director of the Wellesley Centers for Women, which is a women in gender research institute housed at Wellesley College. I want to begin by just expressing my sympathies again for your loss and thanking
Thank you.
for being here. But I have a question about how we can increase interest in linking the philanthropic and social investment community, direct service providers, and research providers such as ourselves, because research is often the invisible and not sexy portion of the social change equation. But at the same time, as we increase the need and the call for evidence-based programs so that we know our investments are working, we have to figure out how to make sure that research is a thriving and vital part of the equation. So I'm wondering if from your vantage point, you have any thoughts about how we can strengthen that relationship.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of room for it to be stronger. I think also some of the current momentum that we have in impact investing in social enterprise is coming from universities. It's coming from campuses because the students, the young people today want to have careers and want to invest their money in a way that is tied with their values. I'm always joking that they don't want to buy chapstick, right, unless it's environmentally friendly and it's been made with fair trade principles. So if they're not going to buy chapstick without considering those factors, they're certainly not going to invest their money without considering those factors. In terms of how do you create closer ties, I think that we need to look at, are there ways to connect philanthropists and universities and impact investors through the trade associations like WFN? And so what about partnerships where WFN, and I'm not familiar with the academic associations, but would partner with journals or research providers, the librarians, the business librarians on school campuses are incredible resources, along with impact investing trade associations like the Global Impact Investment Network, or there's a trade association that supports foundations who want to make program-related investments that's called Mission Investors Exchange. And so maybe there's a way through those networks to get the networks talking to each other that then would get the members that are part of those networks in closer connection and communication. So I think I'm getting the hook. Do we have time for one more question or no? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.